Someone right now is reading a text message that will cost them thousands of dollars. They don't know it yet. The message looks legitimate. It says their bank account has been compromised. There's a phone number, a sense of urgency, and in 15 minutes they'll realize they just sent their rent money to a stranger in another country. This isn't a story about someone else. According to latest financial fraud survey, 34% of American adults, that's more than 1 in 3 people, have experienced financial fraud or a scam in the past 12 months. If you're watching this video with 2 friends, statistically, one of you has already been targeted. And here's the part that should keep you up at night. Of those who were scammed, 37% actually lost money. Not just had their information stolen, not just received a suspicious email, they lost real cash. This isn't some distant problem happening to people who don't know better. This is happening right now, to people who think they're protected, to people who've taken every precaution, to people who would swear they're too smart to fall for it. Let me show you why none of us are safe. Here's what the numbers actually tell us. More than 2 out of every 3 Americans, 68%, have experienced a financial scam or fraud at some point in their lives. Think about that. The majority of this country has been targeted. And 30% of those people faced more than one type of scam. But the recency is what's alarming. Among Americans who've been scammed in just the past year, 90% say someone tried to access their personal financial information, bank accounts, credit cards, social security numbers. The good news is that more than half of those attempts were unsuccessful. The bad news is that unsuccessful attempts still mean someone had your information. Someone was inside your digital perimeter. And when the attempts do succeed, the damage is real. 19% of victims in the past year lost money when someone accessed their personal information. 23% sent funds directly to a scammer or paid for what turned out to be a phony service. Now, you might be thinking this is happening to older people who don't understand technology. People who click on suspicious links, people who aren't careful. You'd be wrong. Let's talk about who's actually getting scammed. Baby boomers, people aged 61 to 79, are the most likely generation to have ever experienced fraud, at 73%. Gen Xers are close behind at 71%. That part tracks with what you'd expect. Older people, more time exposed to scams, more wealth to target. But here's where it gets strange. When it comes to actually losing money from a scam in the past year, the youngest generation gets hit the hardest. 53% of Gen Zers who experienced fraud in the past 12 months lost money. 53%. That's more than half. Compare that to 45% of millennials, 32% of Gen Xers, and just 26% of baby boomers. The generation that grew up with smartphones, that understands digital ecosystems better than anyone, is losing money at twice the rate of their grandparents. Why? Because Gen Zers are more likely to send money directly to scammers. 34% of Gen Z fraud victims reported paying for what turned out to be a phony service. They're being targeted through platforms they trust. Fake job offers, investment schemes, meme coins, services that look real until the money disappears. And there's another pattern buried in the data. The less money you have, the more vulnerable you are. Americans earning under $50,000 a year were the most likely to experience fraud since January 2024. At 37%, they were also the most likely to lose money. 40% of low-income fraud victims actually lost cash. Think about the cruelty of that for a second. The people least able to absorb financial loss are the ones being targeted most aggressively. Scammers aren't just opportunistic. They're predatory. They know who's desperate, who's stretched thin, who believe a promise that sounds too good to be true because they need it to be true. So how does this actually happen? The methods have evolved far beyond the type-written emails from a Nigerian prince. Modern scams are sophisticated, personalized, and psychologically engineered. There are text messages claiming you've won a cash prize, fake recruiters offering job interviews for a fee, investment schemes that look legitimate until you try to withdraw your money. There are even threats involving loved ones being held hostage. In 2025, scammers are using artificial intelligence to create hyper-realistic fake emails and invoices. They're using deepfake technology to impersonate executives on video calls and authorize fraudulent payments. They're posing as bank employees or police officers, creating a sense of urgency and fear to trick people into revealing sensitive information. One of the most common tactics right now is CEO fraud. A scammer impersonates a company executive and sends an urgent email requesting a wire transfer. The email looks real, the tone matches, the request seems plausible, and by the time someone verifies it, the money is gone. Then there are romance scams. People form what they believe are genuine relationships online, only to be asked for money weeks or months later. The emotional manipulation is deliberate. The scammer builds trust, creates dependency, and then exploits it. QR code fraud is rising. Fake QR codes placed over legitimate ones in parking meters, restaurant tables, anywhere someone might scan without thinking. The code redirects to a phishing site that harvests payment information. And here's the part that makes all of this so insidious. Scammers exploit emotions: fear, trust, urgency, excitement. that create scenarios where your emotions overpower your judgment. You're told your account has been compromised and you need to act immediately. You're offered a limited time investment opportunity that requires a quick decision. You're reshown a fake prize, UVA1, and told you need to pay a processing fee to claim it. These tactics work because they're designed to bypass rational thinking. When you're scared, when you're excited, when you're under pressure, you don't verify, you react. Now here's where things get darker. The trauma of being scammed doesn't just cost you money, it changes how you see the world. In general, Americans think it is slightly more unlikely than likely that they'll be targeted by a financial scam in the next 12 months. 39% say it's unlikely. 37% say it's likely. But if you've been scammed before, those numbers flip. Nearly half of Americans who ever experienced fraud, 46%, say it's likely they'll experience it again within the next year. And if you've been scammed recently, in the past 12 months, that number jumps to 61%. 6 out of 10 recent fraud victims think they'll be scammed again. That's not just pessimism, that's learned helplessness. It's the psychological residue of being violated, of realizing that the systems you trusted, the precautions you took, the vigilance you maintained, none of it mattered. And they're probably right to feel that way. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Even people who do everything right are still getting scammed. The Bankrate survey found that 89% of Americans have taken steps in the past year to protect themselves from fraud. They've updated passwords, enabled two-factor authentication, avoided clicking suspicious links, set up spam filters, monitored their accounts, checked their credit reports, shredded sensitive documents, and yet 77% of Americans have taken at least 2 of these protective steps. 65% have taken at least 3. More than half have taken 4. 73% of Americans who took at least 1 precautionary step still report being defrauded or scammed at some point. 38% were scammed in the past 12 months. Let that sink in. 3 out of 4 people who actively protect themselves have still been victimized. Now, it's possible some of them only started taking precautions after they were scammed. Experience might be the teacher here, as the survey suggests, but that doesn't change the core reality. Fraud can happen to just about anyone, even those who appear technologically savvy or are taking proper precautions. The system isn't designed to protect you. It's designed to react after you've already been harmed, and the system might be about to get worse. There are 2 major developments happening right now that could embolden scammers even further. The first is the Great Wealth Transfer. Baby boomers, the wealthiest generation in history, are beginning to pass on their assets. Trillions of dollars are moving between generations. And wherever large amounts of money are in motion, fraud follows. We're already seeing a rise in inheritance-related scams, family members manipulating elderly relatives, forged wills, misuse of power of attorney, siblings issuing themselves shares in family companies to dilute others' stakes. These are inside jobs, committed by people who are supposed to be trusted. And then there's the second development. In February 2025, the Trump administration ordered the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the federal agency responsible for overseeing financial institutions and protecting consumers from unfair practices, to suspend all operations. Acting Director Russell Vought instructed staff to cease supervision, enforcement actions, and rulemaking processes. The agency's Washington headquarters was closed. This means there is currently no one monitoring $18 trillion in consumer debt to ensure Americans are being taken advantage of. The leading consumer financial watchdog is unable to oversee major banks, payday lenders, and other financial entities that may be exploiting consumers. The timing is almost poetic. Just as scams are surging, just as fraud becomes more sophisticated, just as the largest wealth transfer in history begins, the agency designed to protect people is shut down. Scammers must be celebrating. So, what are you supposed to do? If you realize you've been scammed, don't panic. Scammers prey on desperation. There are still steps you can take. First, contact your bank immediately. Lock your accounts. See if they can reverse any transfers or help you recover funds. Dispute fraudulent charges on credit cards. Second, change your passwords. Every financial account that might be at risk. Don't reuse passwords. Use a password manager if you have to. Third, freeze your credit reports. Contact the 3 major credit bureaus, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. A credit freeze prevents anyone from opening new accounts in your name. You can unfreeze it later when you need to apply for credit. Fourth, file a report with the Federal Trade Commission. It won't get your money back, but it helps law enforcement track patterns and potentially prevent future fraud. And then, moving forward, stay vigilant. Avoid clicking links in unsolicited emails or texts. Enable two-factor authentication on every account. Monitor your financial accounts regularly. Check your credit report for errors. Shred sensitive documents before throwing them away. But even if you do all of that, even if you follow every piece of advice, you're still not guaranteed to be safe. Because the laws that are supposed to protect you have limits. The Electronic Fund Transfer Act and the Fair Credit Billing Act protect consumers from unauthorized transactions on debit and credit cards. If someone steals your card and uses it, you have limited liability, usually $50 if you report it within 2 days. But if you willingly pay a scammer for a phony service, those protections don't apply. The law can't help you if you were the one who authorized the payment. And scammers know this. That's why so many schemes are designed to trick you into sending money voluntarily. So here's the question nobody wants to ask. Are we ever actually safe from financial scams? Or is this just the cost of living in a digitally connected world where trust is a liability and vigilance is exhausting? The data suggests the latter. Fraud isn't an anomaly. It's not a rare event that happens to careless people. It's a structural feature of modern financial systems. It's what happens when technology moves faster than regulation, when scammers are more innovative than the institutions designed to stop them, when the people with the most to lose are the ones least protected. And it's getting worse. More sophisticated tools, weaker oversight, larger amounts of money in motion, a generation of young people losing money at unprecedented rates, a generation of older people transferring wealth into a system swarming with predators. This isn't a problem with an obvious solution. You can take every precaution and still get scammed. You can be young and tech-savvy and still lose money. You can be old and experienced and still get targeted. The only certainty is this: someone is being scammed right now. Someone is reading a message they think is legitimate. Someone is about to send money they'll never see again. And there's a decent chance that someone, at some point, will be you.